Hello there, welcome back to another show. The show I'm doing this week probably a bit shorter than normal, but there's one more of them. Just because of the films I'm going to cover, though. I'm covering some films that might not have the kind of depth you need to do a long video on, so I'll probably do shorter videos about them. It's just because it's summer, and it's hard to do videos. It's hard to watch films that they've got a lot of depth to them in the summer. Your brain kind of rejects it. Autumn, spring, winter, I find it much easier to watch like more difficult films. In summer, my brain can melt, so I get a few good ones in there. I try my best, but my concentration's not great, so I get headaches during the summer. So it's one of those things where I tend to watch sort of more just simpler films. So, but I did start the first two I'll cover this week are a bit more substantial. There are some good stuff here still. It's just that there's probably less themes you can talk about with a lot of these. A lot of them are on surface films, so that's just the way it is because it's summer. So the first one is Thief, Michael Mann's Thief. This was his film debut after he made Jericho Mile. I hadn't watched Thief for a while, and I managed to watch it on a projector just before the heat wave really hit. And it is wonderful. It's that film where you could see all the talent there. You'd see the obsessions there. You could see everything that was there. There's going to be this very Michael Mann. A lot of it was already kind of worked out. It was already things that we'd elaborate on in the future. We'd repeat certain things. He had certain obsessions that were going to keep on coming through the films, whether it be something that was still very Michael Mannish, like Miami Vice, or something that could be a bit more different from his normal thing, like Last Mohicans, or Insider Alley. Certain things would repeat, even if the surface story would feel very different. But you can see Heat's very much in the same vein as this one. Heat's almost like an expanded version of Thief, really. You can imagine it being the same universe, basically. You can imagine the character from Thief could show up in Heat and just feel like a normal character. It's that kind of tied in as the same kind of world. The same way as something like Crime Story has the same feeling to it as well. They've just got that kind of DNA to them. So, Thief is the story of James Caan, who is he's a thief, basically. He get put in jail for some minor thing, learned all the tricks for how to be a high level thief, and he works independent. He is his own boss. He does not want to have someone above him telling him what to do. He's got his ideals of what he should be, what a person in the world should be. It's very kind of almost an artist version of the world. Again, I will not compromise myself. I will not do things that will make me feel bad. So he runs his own car dealership as a cover for his thievery, and he's doing well. He pulls off a big job, and the job ends up getting attention of the local crime organisation, who realise that Can is like the best there is at like jewel thieves. He specialises in jewellery and things. He specialises in things that are non-violent, that are very much in his wheelhouse. He does not want to. He wants to do some scores and then move on. He does not want to be doing this like full time forever. He wants to make his money and then get out. And this system, basically the story is about him realising like crime is like any other system, like any other working organisation. Similar to banks, similar to politics, there are rules to crime. There are people you pay off. And when dealing with this organization, he starts to realize that he, well, he wants to be a person who's independent. He's ultimately, the real world wants him to learn how to pay people off, learn how to do the job, take a cut, invest the money in like shopping malls or something, make good retirement money, and you know, be a cog in the machine rather than an individual, really. And it's sort of like learning how the world works now, how a modern world works compared to what he imagines the world should be. So this is sort of like a guy trying to learn how the world worked in the late 70s, early 80s, which obviously has echoes of how the world works now, but it's also a bit different, but the mechanisms are still the same. The world wants you to have your area of expertise, subsume it to the greater cause, and ultimately keep working until you drop. Rather than this romantic vision Can has of getting a few big scores and getting out, and then just, moving on with his life. It's like the world does not want that for him. The world does not want him to be an individual. The world wants him to be, he can have a family, he can have all that stuff, but keep on producing, keep on grinding, and you don't get the fruits of your labour. You get your little share. You don't get everything you want. You get your little bit, and if you're a big school, you're not going to get much of it ultimately. And there's a boss, and the boss runs the system, and the boss doesn't seem to even get much joy from the system. He's just another cog in the machine as well. So it's a look about the system of crime that's very reminiscent of Point Blank, which is like when Lee Marvin's crashing through everything to try and get his money, which is not very much money. And ultimately, there's no money anymore, it's just credit cards. This is the same thing. It's a guy who comes from a set of values that is early century America. Get your own money, don't trust anybody. It's a criminal system that works in the jails, but it's a system of people who are out of touch with how the world actually works. Like Can's character got all his values from people who had failed in this life. Like his values were tied on to being someone who was in a system where they were abandoned by society. They create your own few friends, you try and get out, and it's like it's an old-fashioned system. It's not working in the world that he's operating in, and has an ability to actually see the world as it is rather than how you'd like it to be makes him blind to the manipulations of Leo, played by Robert Prosky, who a lot of films he plays a nice guy. In this one, he comes across as a nice guy, but there's a nastiness below the surface, and it's a system basically of this is how the crime thing works. We pay cops off so they don't look into things. The people we rob claim their money back from insurance, so the insurance pays the bills. And, it's just one of those things. Everybody makes out. Like, nobody really loses. It's just another cognitive system where everyone's making a little bit off each score, basically. And that money gets rerouted into the shopping malls and things like that. So a lot of stuff's been funded by crime. And it's just another sort of way of society's working, and Can places himself above that. And from the point of view of the criminal enterprises, they want him taken down and being told how the world actually works. And it's like a dislocation between Can's view of the world and the view of the criminal enterprise, and the way the police view it. And so you get this big set of ideas at the top, but it's all filtered through like one-to-one confrontations, between Can and the police, who all know how the system works. Can and Leo, who knows the system works. Can and his girlfriend, played Tuesday Weld, who he picks up, and they're both damaged people, and they both want a family, and they both want this view of the world that they want in their terms, and it's especially Can. I mean, Tracy Wells' character can see the reality of life. Well, Paul can't. He's too much in his own fantasy. And it's like he is realistic to a point. He knows how to pull his course. He knows how to deal with lots of different things. But he's blind because he has a set of ideals that aren't modern. And that come from a system that's old fashioned. And he cannot take the crossover. He cannot see the danger coming a mile down the road. Well, if he was a bit more observant, he would see the danger. You know, he cannot understand the way the world works. He just views the world as the way he views the world. So it's a wonderful film about a romantic ideology versus reality, and how romantic ideology is always going to get crushed because reality is uncaring. It's just basically the nature of the world, and some people just see what the nature of the world is and they just go with it, and other people fit against it and they can't quite grasp why they're failing. It's that kind of metaphor throughout. But you get some terrific scenes with Canvas, all these characters, and you get him articulating his view of the world, and yet other people articulating their view of the world. But it's all done in a really dramatic way. Things build slowly. It's a well-paced film that gradually reveals all these ideas. It starts off the first third, as Michael Mann always does, is you're getting to the view of the lead character. You're getting the character's view of the world. And then, during the middle third, you get the rest of the world and what the character may be dealing with entering the story. And then the final third is the resolution. It's like, how are they going to... Where are they going to move in this world? Are they going to be crushed by it, or are they going to kind of embrace it? And in this one, he gets crushed by it. I mean, it ends in violence. It ends in basically him destroying everything he's built because he would not go along with what they are asking. And it's like a tragedy. It's like he cannot take just being an employee for the mob. Basically, he needs his freedom, and it's like that's what he needs more than anything else. So he's like a character that's pretty much an earlier and more developed version of the character De Niro would play in Heat. That's a much better version of that character because it's all about him. And to be honest, Can is better that kind of character than De Niro is. Can's got that softer side, that dreamy side to him as an actor, that damage to him that De Niro doesn't really have as much. It's what makes his character much more compulsive. And you also get early Michael Mann where a lot of his style of blues and dealing with the landscape of the city are all here, and it's less stylized in a way. It's very stylized, but it's a bit grittier, and it's a bit rawer. So maybe it's not quite as masterly planned out in shots as his later films, but there's like a rawness there that really brings a lot. The same way that when Schrader was doing Blue Collar, there was a rawness there to his direction that would go away really as he had bigger budgets and as he had more experience. Again, like Blue Collar, this is a story about someone dealing with what the system actually is. I mean, very few movies, because movies are made by a system, very few movies the systems are portrayed in a realistic way because the people who run the system don't want to give away all the tricks. So it's always an idealised version of it where you can succeed. I mean, corporations are selling out to people while they're crushing them. It's just this life. And the film's about that kind of feeling of being crushed with something that is uncaring about you. So this is a beautiful film. The acting's terrific. The sense of purpose to it is terrific. The break-in scenes are amazing. It's like this was a film that the police were concerned with because it showed you how to actually do these jobs. It was like it was very, very well researched. So there was a concern about, are you teaching people how to actually do crimes here? The police stuff feels very realistic. The police stuff feels like it's not personal. It's just like the police want a cut. So that's it. It's just corrupt policemen. That's what they do. And again with with Leo, the villain, he thinks he's doing kind of favour ultimately. He's just trying to teach him how how the world works. This is what it is. So why don't you play along? Everyone else plays along. Everyone else does what they do. You can have a good life if you just do the way everyone else does it. You may go to jail maybe once or twice in the future and then maybe retire, but you'll have a good life. You'll have good savings. What's the problem? Like, he doesn't get he's the villain, and to him he's not the villain. To him, Can's the villain. Can can't understand what the world is. So that's what's really good about the villain here is like he doesn't. He understands that Can needs to be moved along a little bit slowly, so that he understands the world he has been reduced to has to be slowly manipulated. But he figures Can eventually will just fold. And he doesn't understand why he's been so like righteous about his way of doing things. It's just he doesn't get it. It's like, what's this guy's problem? So that's one of the better villains you get is someone who's like, I'm being reasonable to you. Why are you even so awful? And the truth is, I've kind of just learned how to deal with it. The last third wouldn't have happened. It would have been like, okay, fine. But it's one of those things. So it's like it's a really good dynamic because you can see both point of views, and you can see that Can's big shootout at the end really is almost like a psychotic breakdown. So it's not really a heroic thing. It's something else. It's something darker. It's built on need and control fantasies, romantic fantasies that are, and sort of a sense of isolation, a sense of doom that nothing will work out, and he sends his wife away with the child and everything else, and he's never going to see them again. It's like it's a tragic ending, and it's sad, and it's also based on some psychology that is probably psychotic in some way, but it's also based on an old-fashioned set of values and a person who's been damaged really badly as a child. And there's just lots of details about that just slowly come through the film. So this is such a wonderful film. I'd highly recommend seeing it. It's just wonderful. It's just early Mann, but he has arrived. That's the film he arrived. That's the film that got him on the map for people. He got the Keep after this, which was a disaster for him. But then he went on to do Manhunter and Last Mohicans, and then Heat and Insider and Ali and things, all that stuff. So it was like his launch point. He'd done Jericho Mill before this on TV, but this is his launch into big films. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back soon. I can't say any more because I'm going to just repeat myself even more than I've done already. So I'll see you soon. Bye.